Good morning everybody and welcome back to another episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Wave 4, where today we are back to take another look at a custom set. It's been a while, but we're here with Z055 with 268 pieces. A bit of a number gap compared to Z0100 the other week, but this is training with the Hero Shade, a smaller end set based of course off Twilight Princess, giving us some desirable figures and the return of a Wolf Link. But that's not all for today. We'll also be taking a look at a second set that I'll talk to you about in a second, but this is training with the Hero Shade with ages 8 and up for 268 pieces, retailing for £17.99 Great British pounds, containing 2 minifigures and 1 animal. This set is kind of similar to a battle, where you've got a ability to duel your 2 characters, as well as a couple other transformation features for us to take a look at. And then later on, we'll be taking a look at Z008 Wolf Link attack with ages for 8 and up with 125 pieces. And this is a remastered Wave 1 set that I also want to take a look at today, because they both feature Wolf Link. How thematic. But let's get back to Z055 for now and talk about our description, open up our box and show you all the features in this small model, but one that I think does a good job. Train with the Hero Shade in the all-new LEGO Legend of Zelda playset. Track down the Golden Wolf and see it transform into the mysterious Hero Shade under the moonlight. Spin, dodge and lunge around the movable training platforms around an adjustable arena of Twilight Princess's eerie but iconic skyline. But watch your back as the Shade uses the launcher to practice the jump attack, fight for Hyrule and to become the Master Swordsman. And that's right, this model largely features I'm going to call it the spiritual realm seen in Twilight Princess, the realm where the Hero Shade teaches you the forbidden skills. And in that realm, you get a skyline of a couple of different iconic locations that you feature in Twilight Princess, and that are sort of being recreated here, which makes it a very random set, but it's mostly about the play. It's small and cheap and a good way for kids to enter in, and I like to think that it adds something unique for the adult fans too. But let's open up our box to reveal 3 numbered bags and an instruction manual, which if we open up that manual, we will see that bag 1 gives us our Link figure, pretty much has to, and build this central setup referencing the Arbiter's Grounds, but also giving you your dueling platform for the play feature. Bag 2 builds this section of rock, which is another feature hidden here and gives us the Hero Shade. And then bag 3 is when the Hero Shade's wolf form shows up, does the diorama section here with the Farron Woods and Hyrule Castle sections, and then the little launcher that was mentioned in the description as well. But let's actually jump into taking a look at the model itself. So I want to start with the rocks because that is the hidden feature. Of course, when you start your Hero Shade training, you come across the Golden Wolf, who then transforms into the Hero Shade and transports you to this world. That feature has been recreated here using this rock setup here, because you'll notice there's a small ugly rock piece here which has a space underneath big enough to hold a figure. The Hero Shade can be placed under here, or I guess technically Link, but the Hero Shade can be placed under here. You place Wolf Link on top on this rough surface. He'll stand, he's a quadrupedal wolf, and then you push up on the back and the rock launches up. Of course, the wolf gets chucked backwards and reveals the Hero Shade. A very rudimentary transformation feature, but one that I still love all the same. I actually really love how this rock pile looks. I know it's simple, but if you imagine that once your kids have had fun with the dueling, they can sort of run around and clamber all over the rocks. And I like that it contrasts well with the dark green, which seems to be a consistent theme across our Twilight Princess sets. We've got some vines here and a bit of leafage, as well as a little yellow thing, which could be a nod to a Korok seed, but no, it's just a flower here. And then my favorite part of this little setup is just behind here, is we've got this Technic-Axle with the superhero poser piece to put a moon in the sky. And that is because the spiritual realm, as we're calling it, is always in nighttime. There's a little bit of werewolf energy, I guess, going on here as well, with the idea of the wolf form turning into the Hero Shade. However, this is a double purpose. Not only does this moon glow and just look really cool and add to sort of the nighttime display vibe, which I'm really, really pleased with, but of course, if you remove the moon and cloud, you are left with a transparent rod, which allows you to pose figures as if they are coming to attack each other. So either this could be Link in the middle of doing a jump slash about to come down, or perhaps it's the Hero Shade wolf about to jump in and launch on Link. Either way, I like the idea of being able to use this as double purpose. I feel most people will just leave the cloud on there for display, but yeah, you can turn it in, plug it on the other side, and actually have it as a figure display point too. It's worth noting that the 4 major sections are all on clip joints, and while they're not universal, i.e. they can't be perfectly rearranged, there is some customizability here, and of course it does mean you can angle them in and out. So you can have this big U shape to make a more intense arena, or you could have a completely flat wall display for your shelf. Moving into the central section, here we have the Arbiter's Ground section, and this is obviously representing the pillars coming out of the sky. They're all topped with various different things which aren't particularly accurate. We've got pyramidal pieces on the smaller ones, and then Triforce triangles on the top. You'll notice that they are indeed on jumper studs, meaning that these 4 pillars can be knocked off, which I don't reckon would happen as you move figures around underneath, but it's another action feature that you could indeed cause damage to the Arbiter's Grounds, and actually is something very vaguely similar to the rest of the play feature we have in the other set today. But down the bottom, we have the tried and tested duel feature. This is similar to the 2005 lightsaber duel, but modernized. We've actually seen this more recently though, I believe in an Ninjago set. And it's popped up across the decades, as well as being vaguely similar to the Star Wars battle concept, like a duel on Starkiller and Mustafar, or those use different systems. But either way, you've got these two technic rods that can be pushed in and out, and left to right, and tilted side to side to give you a fairly decent range of articulation. And I think this play feature works best when you remove the separation, the two side builds, and that is purely because then you and your friend can get access to it. But if you're just playing with it yourself, it's still a lot of fun, and obviously they twist backwards and forwards, and you go yeah yeah. And because they're on jumper studs and you compose them, the figures should be able to knock each other off, which is great. So a bit spin jitsu-y, and there's an angle here to make sure that you can actually get them close enough together, because I was worried there wouldn't be. So this arbiter's ground section bends in the middle as well, just to make the duel potentially more head-on than it would be otherwise. But yeah, lots and lots of spinning, ability to knock figures off, and of course training your hidden skills. And while you can't sort of lift up to do jump strikes, that's of course what our launcher feature is for as we get there and move across. Moving across to the third bag and the right hand section, this one doesn't have any particular play features except for it being here. Of course, it's representing the other two big things from the skyline of the spiritual realm. We've got the castle done in microscale in the distance, hidden behind some rock work, but also using a Technic piece here to represent a window or a door on the top. I like to think that that's the room where you fight Beast Ganon in the finale. And then of course all the blue cones and cones on different tasks and heights. It's definitely more of an artistic interpretation because the TP castle doesn't particularly look like this, but it is in microscale. And then completely dwarfing it, we have the also microscale version of the Farron trees, because even at this scale it's very, very small. And what I really love here is sort of the elevated one, because the trees in Farron, or at least this big tree, is very mangrove-esque with these roots that come above ground. You'll see some leaves underneath when we're making use of all these different bough pieces in different shapes and cones and colours, and I really like how that looks. And it all comes back up to this sort of large leafy canopy, which is fairly simple. Remember, this is an 8-up set and it is only a sort of display diorama, but you could of course get figures to sort of climb around and maybe you'd be able to poke them on the inside, although it would be a very, very tight fit. But again, it's another landscape, it's something you can interact with. You could chop the tree down, I guess, as well, because it is on a jumper there at the top for the canopy. But again, it's mostly for display. Everything else is fairly playable, so this section is more backdrop, which I know is technically against ethos, but it's whatever. And then there is one last angled section over on the far right, which is the launcher. This is the launcher, which is self-proclaimed for the jump slash, but to be honest, I see it as a sort of surprise attack. So either this is another way for Wolf, a form of Hero Shade, to jump Link, or for the Hero Shade to perform a splitter, or for Link to say have learned Helm Splitter and then actually jump at it. And of course, you just tap down on here and the figure goes flying as it's loosely purchased between this Friends T-piece here. And this is a very, very simple shooter setup, very, very under-engineered and probably prone to errors. It's so simple, but it is a nice inclusion. So those are all the elements of the build. Let's take a quick look at the figures before we move on to the second set for today. So first up is the desirable one for this set, and this is the Hero Shade. It's using the existing armor piece that I believe was introduced in Ninjago Sons of Armageddon, but was also used on the Series 19 Bounty Hunter in black, but reversed so that the back side of the armor, which is slightly lower, comes onto the front, and this is just to sort of match the shaping. I realized that it would be ideal to have a custom molded piece, but given that he already has the custom molded helmet, I just didn't have the mold budget to do such a thing. I also realized this is a figure that people would want to be transparent. You and I both know that's not happening. I mean, the best you get is like trans black arms, but let's be real, it's more likely that they just go for solid grey. Although, watch them prove me wrong now, but we're basically never getting this figure. We're 4 waves in. The helmet is pure pearl gold with bar attachments on the sides instead of accurate shaping. One, to make it safer for kids, but also just to make it more compatible with the Lego system. So it means you could attach all kinds of silly stuff to the side of the helmet. The skeleton face print obviously is the Lego skeleton and not just an accurate one. And then just has the red eye glowing in one of the sockets to match the Hero Shade. And all the markings on the helmets are printing. The rest of the breast plate, which isn't sort of ivy colored, which is why the rest is sand green, is done in a pearl gold print on the sort of skeletal recessed torso, and then you've got some chainmail here in black with a bit of tan for the tabard going down onto the legs, and then some golden shoes that you can't see in this image. Sword is the just normal normal metallic one. Some people would argue white, some people would argue gold. Nope, you're getting flat silver because you have a printed shield, and that is something to be grateful for, which is just the normal disc shield piece in pearl gold with an accurate print, making a overall fairly desirable figure that I'm sure people will complain is a shortfall. Next up is the Twilight Princess Link. He remains unchanged since Wave 2. This is the remastered version we introduced as canon with Ganondorf Horseback Duel, another Twilight Princess set which doesn't have the blue eyes anymore, having black eyes here. He's accurate to the game. He's using sand green as a color, the same Link hat mod that we use for Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, Link to the Past, all of the classic ones where it makes sense to. This isn't a very good image of it because this is an older render, but he is here with a normal broadsword and then the Hylian shield, which is just a print. And yeah, it's the same figure we've seen before. Let's move on then to the more interesting one, which is the Golden Wolf. This is the same wolf mold that we used for Wolf Link, and you'll be seeing later on for Wolf Link in Wave 1. Just new printed. He is done in pearl gold with white printing and red eyes. The head can move up and down, and where the collar would have been on Wolf Link's wrist, the mold is not changed, it's still there. You can see it sticking out, but it is just molded in gold and has no printing on it, just because they would not make a separate mold. But it's great to have him, and I'll show you him next to Wolf Link in just a minute. But let's move off this set for now and come on to talk about the remaster for today, which is Z008 Wolf Link Attacks. I've already mentioned this is for ages 8 and up, with 125 pieces retailing for £12.99 Great British Pounds, with one figure and one animal. And this is the smallest of the Wave 1 sets, which is why we're jumping it in with this video. And it's just a quick remaster really, because you can see that the original build on the top left is largely the same, but this just makes it feel more like a playset. It feels like it's more in style with both my design language and the official LEGO design language. There was just something off about the first one. So you'll notice some changes, and we'll talk through those now. And then also some new side builds just to beef it up a bit, because there wasn't really much play. I also just want to draw attention to the fact that this is now this one's third box art, as with all Wave 1 sets that get a remaster. And just the process here, like the change over time is insane. Those Wave 1 boxes were so ugly. And then of course, you got the new box and the set just feels lacking. And now that all the figures have been redone and everything looks better, the new box is just amazing. Let's quickly read the description then. Investigate the outpost in the heart of the Gerudo Desert in the new LEGO Legend of Zelda Wolf Link Attacks playset, featuring detachable and destructible fortifications, an outpost gate, campfire with hidden secret and accessories. You can explore the ruins by knocking the bublin archer off his post and finding a key. And that description is very similar to the original one from 2020. But we're going to open up the box. There's no need to show you a bag breakdown because it's all one bag, and here is everything that it builds up. You've got the main gate and then the side builds. Let's start with the main gate. The actual gate design hasn't changed at all. It's still this dilapidated one. The only swings inwards. It does not swing outwards because of how the hinges are attached. It's got plates and angles and barbed wire all coming off it, and then a ring piece to represent sort of the lock, but also potentially like a crest or something on the middle. You just have to imagine that you can unlock it with a key because it's not one included. One of the biggest changes for that central section is just adding this bit of dirt out the front, just allowing you to pose figures. You can imagine that you can pose Wolf Link here, or perhaps the bublin archer is down on the ground, or perhaps the barrel is on that 2x2 rounded jumper, and then you can knock it over to reveal the key or the meat or whatever you want. It's just more space to pose, and it doesn't feel sort of as sharply empty anymore, which I don't know why I did that originally. I think largely I was probably just less experienced. So it's nice to be able to do updates like this because, well, this isn't like a huge amount better. This at least does the spirit of the idea in a more detailed way. I also think that this is more beneficial just for play. I realized that before we touted sort of a modular compatible nature, but realistically the only modularity here is you can attach multiple gates together, and actually I've changed it so you can't even do that now because of the way I've changed the joint system, which I'll show you in a second. But you've got a dead bush, some sand here in white tan, but now we've actually got a reason for you to go into the camp in the form of the side builds. But before we get there, we've still got the two same towers off to the side. These are of course representing the Arbiter's Grounds ruins, or at least outside of them. They are now made in a much more logical style using these rounded column elements instead of a snot technique. Again, that was not a good idea on my part. The columns themselves are actually on jumper plates, meaning you can knock down the top two segments on the right, and then you could even take the rest of it off on the right, and then all 5 segments or 4 segments even on the left are also removable too. And of course there are jumper studs on the top for you to pose the bublin archer, so you can have the bublin archer down on the ground, you can have them behind the gate, which also has a couple of studs here, and then or you could have them up on the pillar and you can like sort of launch Wolf Link at him or pretend you're bomb arrowing it or something and make him fall down. These two side pillars are removable. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but I just like the idea of them not being built on the same base. It's just an extra way to clip them, and I've changed the clip connections. This is something I'm actually going to be applying to the Lizal Battle Pack as well in real life. I'm just got to get around to it, and that is the removal of Technic pin connectors in everything but the dungeons. The dungeons are exempt because they're big enough, and I'm using the non-friction ones. But the problem with the Lizzo connectors in particular, and the same is true here, is we were using hard friction Technic pins or the ones built into bricks, like the modified bricks. But the problem with this is they're really, really strong, which means the models are under a lot of strain when you try and pull them apart, which can lead to them breaking. Instead, we've adapted to this newer system, which is actually what we're seeing a lot in LEGO sets for similar reasons, but also just because I know it's a more like malleable click that doesn't really feel as strong, but we don't really need it to for this. It just needs to hold in place and sort of softly go together but easily pull apart. So this is the clip selection that was actually used in the Blacktron Renegade, and I'm investigating whether I want to use this or an even weaker version for the Lizzo Battle Pack, because I've had problems with that model at conventions just exploding because of me trying to pull apart sections. So I'm looking into it. So that has been implemented here. It's just a modernization. It's the great thing about the remasters, or this is probably the last time that we will remaster this set. Okay, side builds then. 2 crates, one with a key and one with a turkey, of course, designed to be like bublin food to go on the campfire. Yeah, again, it's just extra play. Stuff like this should always be here. I regret not including stuff like this or more stuff like this, I should say, in the Ice Battle Pack, although I did include quite a lot in there, and I regret not including more and just having these side builds that you can play with, and they add so much story. So yeah, they are here now in this remaster, and it makes it come so much more alive, and it's stuff for you to actually store behind the gate, stuff that might be worth stealing. Now, as for what there is stealing, there has been this feature that I wanted to recreate for the longest time in an Albert's Ground set, and that is one of my favorite Twilight Princess heart pieces, which is the heart inside the cooking boar. Now, we do not have the piece count because this set needed to stay at $12.99 for it to be a full boar on a spit, and actually I want to save that idea for another set, which will be quite morbid, but I'm saving for another set. So instead here, we just have a campfire. I chose to make it pretty extreme, go quite big. It's not the same design, but I was inspired by just how big the bonfire was in the Siege Encampment BDP set. Again, I wasn't copying that. I'm just saying that I liked how big and crazy the bonfire was, and I thought, yeah, why not? Why can the bublins not have that? And so we've got 3 different types of flames here on logs, and you'll notice that it is quite raised up off the ground, which wouldn't have been there by choice, but it does have a secret on the inside, and that is a heart piece. I had to, it's just cool. I like it. And it adds an extra level of playability. And again, more heart pieces should be in these sets. It should be something I am doing. Heart pieces should be in, say, like some of the dungeons as well. It's crazy that I didn't do that, and that the first heart piece to appear in a set was in the Lon Lon Ranch set, which I love that feature too. And I think it really did just give this set a glow up. But speaking of that, it's not the only thing, because we have to take a look at the figures. First up is Wolflink. He's been completely redrawn. Once again, I am slowly purging all the Wave 1 figures. They will all look consistent one day, I promise you. I'm not doing it for all the waves, but Wave 1's figures and the champions and some of the dodgy ones in Wave 2 are all going to get remasters eventually, just when it's appropriate, because I do want to revisit these videos. I know I'm getting extra content out of them, but it's been so long and most of you haven't seen them. But yeah, Wolflink looks a lot better. He's in the LEGO style using the same mold that we just talked about, but he was the original creator of that mold. You'll notice the areas that are white are the same across both wolves. He's of course got all of the head printing that fans would request, and then he has blue eyes because I think they would for the animal, and obviously Hero Shade Wolf had red eyes. And here you can see what I mean about the collar this time having the dark bluish grey or gunmetal grey printing to represent that. It would never have the chain bit on it, but it's important that it is here, and I like the fact that you can make it this mold work for the Hero Shade Wolf just by not printing that, which is really cool. And of course he has 2 studs on his back. And then the other figure in this set, which didn't really need a remaster, but it's great to have him here, is the Bublin Archer. This one, of course, the Twilight Princess enemy. He is using a custom molded head with the horns molded in that actually is really, really cursed because underneath it actually just goes around the existing Ninjago head wrap mold, which means that the bottom half of that face is incredibly deformed and does not look normal without it. One day I will do a drawing of what it looks like under there, but not today. But that is just the normal Ninjago movie head wrap piece that we've had for ages on the bottom in dark blue. He's got a bow in grey, some dual molded arms, and then some legs. And the only reason he has fairly simple printing is because he's a simple figure, although he does go on to reappear in just a fair few sets. But it's nice to have this guy updated, and I did remove the red eyes just to be in more standard with normal minifigure stylings. And there you go, there are the comparisons side by side. I mean, just the line work alone makes it worth going back and redoing these, right? Like, that's crazy differences. The Bublin was... it's bad, but it was fine. He's just so much more consistent now. Like, these guys look so much better with my new style, and I'm so glad that they all do flow together, but this new style is just so much better, even though it's a little simpler. So yeah, those are the new figures for that set, and that actually does it for looking at both sets, but we're not quite done for today just yet. Here I just quickly wanted to show you the 2 sets of figures together, because the reason we did put these together is because they are the 2 Wolflink sets. They're both Twilight Princess, and I like the dichotomy here because we have our 2 wolves, but also their their other forms, which I quite like. I think that would make a cool poster if this set was real. And of course, I need to show you this set in the Wave 4 lineup. We're only missing 2 more now from this, which will be coming in the coming months. They're all made. I'm just covering them up. I'm hiding them from you. But yeah, this fills in one of the smaller end gaps, one of the smallest end gaps in Wave 4, and just really adds to that lineup. And I love how many important moments but also deep cuts we're getting in Wave 4, because this really does feel like a strange set, but that's what I like. It's that middle ground what LEGO likes to do with Sonic, where they make their own things that fit in the Zelda world. Now this is still directly inspired by a Zelda thing, like a Zelda theme, but it very much feels like they came up with that we want to have a duel set, how can we make that relevant in that concept, which is why I believe it's a really sound concept, and I'm really happy with training for the Hero Shade. It's one of those ideas that I wasn't sure if it would work, but I just committed, I stuck to my guns, I know what I'm talking about, and yeah, it turned out great, and I'm really, really happy with it. And then just to finish off, here is the grid as we work our way towards Z0100. You'll notice, of course, I filled in Z0100 from previously, but also the chaining from the Hero Shade is there in Z055, the slot between Salvatore and Volvagia. So 2 more Wave 4 sets, and then I think it's 5 or 6 from the 90 range, which is the gap between Wave 4 and Wave 5. I've got to start Wave 5 now, you know, I've got to keep going, We're catching up slowly. We'll be there by the summer. So that's going to be a huge range of videos going over all the sets together, and I'm sure that's going to do my voice in. But do let me know what you thought of this today. The next custom setup is another Wave 4 one that is very interesting. I think you can guess what it is from this. If you can guess it, I think you know why it has to be a set, right? And it's all down to those track pieces. I knew this one would be good, but it surprised me. It wasn't perfect, but it's got its charm, and I think you're really gonna like what I have to show you with this one. But let me know your guesses down for this. Let me know what you think of the Twilight Princess representation that we've gotten so far. It is actually the second most common represented set that isn't Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom. So behind Ocarina, Twilight Princess has the most sets in the first 100, which is really interesting. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Sorry, this was a bit of a ramble, but I really liked training for the Hero Shade, and I wanted to share it with you all. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you again very, very soon.